Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really getting into something significant.
We are. We're exploring a concept called Ad-Deen.
Sometimes called the true religion or Deen-e-Haq.
Exactly. And we're leaning heavily on the work of Maulana Syed Abul A Maududi.
Right. His work really helped frame Islam, not just as, religious practice,
but as a whole system for living, a complete way of life.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to unpack this. What is Ad-Deen?
And why is it presented as something humanity fundamentally needs?
And critically, can we humans even build something like this ourselves?
Yeah, that's the core question.
I mean, imagine a guide for life. So complete, so universal.
Guiding every thought, every action.
Across all time, all situations.
Yeah.
Is that even achievable for us on our own?
Well, it's interesting because Ad-Deen, as described here, isn't quite a super detailed instruction manual for everything.
Oh, so it's not like do this, don't do that for every tiny thing.
Not exactly. It's more like a set of eternal universal principles designed to give us direction, regardless of our specific circumstances or time period.
So they set the course for, well, how we think and act.
Right. And how societies progress. The idea is to prevent us wasting time and energy on people. The text calls them futile experiments.
Futile experiments, like societal models or philosophies that just don't work out.
Exactly. Things that might seem promising, but ultimately lead us astray.
That makes sense. So if Ad-Deen provides these guiding principles, what core human needs does it actually have to address? What's it supposed to solve?
Good question. The sources lay out several key requirements. 6, actually, plus a sort of 7th connecting principle.
What's the first one?
First, it needs to provide true knowledge, not just opinion or guesswork, about who we are, about the universe.
And our place in it all.
Precisely. Our place within that grand scheme. Sure. That's number 1.
All right. Number 2.
Clarity about life itself. Is this world it? Or is it just the start of something much bigger, maybe eternal?
Okay, the big picture of existence.
Third, a purpose for life. But one that's based on reality, on truth, not just what we might wish were true.
A purpose that works for individuals and societies.
Yes, and one that doesn't clash across different times or groups. It needs to unify.
Oh, God. What's 4th?
Firm, universal moral principles. Things that genuinely align with our basic human nature.
And they have to work in theory and in practice.
Absolutely. No exceptions based on convenience. This prevents morals from just, collapsing or changing with the wind.
Okay, 5th.
A comprehensive system for civilization, for society itself.
Rooted in human nature again.
Yes, and importantly, free from imbalance or extremes. It needs to genuinely look after everyone's welfare and allow for progress in all areas.
Wow, that's broad. What's 6th?
Clear boundaries and directions for how we act, both individually and as groups.
Like road signs.
Exactly like road signs on the highway of life, as the source puts it. Warning you at crossroads, telling you where the dangerous turns are.
Okay, and you mentioned a 7th point.
Yeah, it's about practical rules that are timeless and universal.
And they connect everything.
They connect us back to the reality of existence, the ultimate goal, those moral principles and the divine boundaries. It ties it all together in practice.
That is a huge scope, a truly comprehensive system.
It really is.
Which brings us right back to that key question. Can we, humanity, actually build this on our own?
Yeah.
It feels like such a tall order.
It does. And Maududi tackles this head on. His conclusion, based on his research, is pretty stark.
Which is?
That human sources cannot create that, Dean.
Cannot. At all.
Not originate it, no. He argues our human faculties, reason, experience, science, are vital for understanding and implementing it.
Okay.
If it's presented through divine revelation, but they're not sufficient to actually construct it from scratch.
That's a very strong claim. So which human tools or sources does he say fall short, and why?
He looks at 4 main ways humans try to figure out how to live and points out their inherent limitations.
Okay, what's the first one?
First up is desire. Our wants are impulses.
A powerful force, no doubt.
Definitely. But Maududi argues it's inherently flawed as a guide. Even when you try to refine it, desire tends to be self-serving.
Focused on immediate gratification.
Exactly. It just isn't equipped to answer the really big questions. What's our ultimate purpose? Where did we come from? Where are we going? Desire can't lead us there.
All right. Desire is out. What's next?
Reason. Our ability to think logically.
Surely that's a better bet.
It's valuable, absolutely, but it has a fundamental limitation. It depends entirely on the information it gets from our senses.
And our senses can be wrong or incomplete.
Right. If the data is flawed, Reason can't guarantee perfect results. And critically, Maududi says reason is always, quote, entangled with desire.
Meaning our thinking is influenced by what we want to be true.
Yes. Our biases, our inclinations, they subtly steer our reasoning. So reason alone can't build that perfectly objective universal system.
Okay, so desire and even reason have their limits. What's the third source?
Science, empirical knowledge, what we can observe and test.
This seems like our strongest tool today.
Invaluable for understanding the physical world, no question. But science, by its very nature, deals with the observable, the testable.
It can't really address metaphysical questions, like purpose or ultimate morality.
Exactly. It can't define ultimate ethics or tell us why we're here or set absolute boundaries for our behavior. The source even says even after thousands of years, science won't be able to provide this comprehensive guide.
Wow. Okay, so desire, reason, science. What's the fourth one?
History, learning from past experience.
We learn a lot from history, don't we? Patterns, consequences.
Immense insight, yes. But can it give us a universal, timeless system for all of life? Maududi argues no.
Why not?
Well, even if we had perfect historical records, who gets to interpret them into a complete way of life? Marx? Hegel? Some other thinker? There's no consensus.
And what about people who lived before we had all this historical data?
Exactly. Was guidance just unavailable to them? It doesn't seem logical if guidance is a fundamental need.
So the conclusion from looking at these four sources is what?
It's quite sobering, really. Humans, using our own means, can create systems, yes, but they'll always be temporary, flawed, partial.
Not the complete universal Ad-Deen.
Impossible, according to this perspective. Without a guide beyond ourselves, humanity is left. Well, the text says, in utter despair.
Like a traveler lost without a map.
Precisely, a traveler without direction. And Maududi poses a challenge here. If you believe in a creator, wouldn't it be, quote, unbearably cruel for that creator not to provide the guidance we most desperately need?
That really puts it starkly. If we can't build the map ourselves, and being lost is unbearable, where do we look? What alternative does the source offer?
This is where, according to Maududi, the Qur'an provides that ray of hope.
How so?
It declares that the one who created everything is also the one who guides it. There's a specific verse cited, Surah Taha, verse 50. He who gave everything its creation, then guided it.
Gave creation, then guided.
Yes, and the analogy used is quite powerful. If God guides an ant in its complex life, or a bee in its hive,
Or a spider building its web.
then why not us? Why not human beings? The argument is that this guidance was sent.
Through prophets.
Through prophets, yes, and in the form of a comprehensive divine way of life. That is, Ad-Deen.
Okay, so the claim is that genuine guidance comes from a divine source. But that raises a huge question.
How do you know it's real?
Exactly. How do we
That's
tell actual divine revelation apart from something that's just, well, human-made? Maybe philosophy, maybe even deception?
Absolutely critical question, and the source offers specific criteria to test any claim of divine guidance. 4 key tests.
Okay, what are they? How can we verify it?
First, perfect knowledge. The guidance must be free of internal contradictions, inconsistencies, or errors, especially scientific ones that would show a limited human origin.
So internally consistent and factually accurate. Makes sense. What's second?
Second, universal perspective. It can't be bound by a specific culture or time period or geographical location. It has to be relevant and applicable to all humanity, always.
Truly universal, not just for one group. Okay, third.
Third, pure wisdom. The guidance should be free from emotional biases, personal agendas, or the kind of short-sightedness that plagues human thinking. It should reflect pure, untainted wisdom.
Objective and wise. And the fourth criterion.
Fourth, complete impartiality. There can be no unjust discrimination, no favoritism towards any race, nation, class, or group. It has to be fair to everyone.
Right, no special treatment.
So the argument is, if a system meets these 4 incredibly demanding criteria,
Perfect knowledge, universal perspective, pure wisdom, complete impartiality.
and if it also successfully fulfills all those essential human needs we talked about earlier, providing knowledge, purpose, morals, a societal framework, boundaries, then the source concludes there's really no reason to doubt its truth. It stands up to scrutiny as genuine divine guidance.
But those are rigorous tests. So let's say someone applies these tests, identifies this Ad-Deen, and accepts it as true. What does that acceptance actually demand from them? You mentioned total surrender earlier. What does that look like in practice for the listener?
It's a profound commitment. The source is very clear. It's not about picking and choosing parts you like. True belief demands total surrender.
Total, meaning everything.
Everything. Your thoughts, your actions, your feelings, every aspect of your being. Islam, understood as this Ad-Deen, is meant to be the guiding force for absolutely everything. Your personal life, how you interact in your family, how you raise children, your approach to education, how you conduct business, economic principles, social interactions, politics, even things like culture and art.
Wow. So nothing is left out.
No aspect of life should remain outside its guidance. That's the explicit statement. It's an all-encompassing commitment, not a part-time faith.
What an incredible journey we've taken in this deep dive. We started trying to grasp the sheer scale of Ad-Deen.
This idea of a complete way of life.
Then we looked at why human efforts alone, according to Maududi, fall short of creating it. The limitations of desire, reason, science, history.
Leaving us potentially lost without external guidance.
But then finding that potential ray of hope in the idea of divine revelation.
And the strict criteria proposed to actually test its authenticity.
Leading finally to understanding the depth of commitment, it requires that concept of total surrender across all parts of life.
Absolutely. And there's a final point the source makes, a sort of call to action for the believer.
What's that?
It's the responsibility not just to accept this truth, but to share it with others, with all humanity, and to actively work towards its establishment in the world.
So it's not a passive belief.
Not at all. The text suggests that being passive, especially when falsehood seems dominant, is actually a sign that your own love for truth has grown cold. It implies a duty to strive for what you believe is right.
That's a powerful concluding thought from the source. So for you listening, what does all this mean? If this idea of truly comprehensive guidance exists,
guidance that perhaps human limitations prevent us from creating ourselves.
How might understanding its potential nature, its source, and the criteria for testing it change how you approach life's biggest questions?
And maybe even how you see your own place, your own role in the world.
Something to think about. We'll leave you with that.